We're still getting to grips with some of the finer detail of the three-way coalition deal. The Regulation Minister and future Deputy Prime Minister is the ACT Party leader, David Seymour, and he's with us this morning. We've just been speaking to a pharmacist. Good morning, David. Well, first of all, how was yesterday, your first swearing in, signing in ceremony as a government minister? How did that feel?
Look, it felt like we've just taken on a big responsibility. A lot of people say congratulations, and I'm grateful for that, but I also just feel like we got a big job. People voted for change, and now it's our obligation to be diligent in delivering it. So mostly like I got a big obligation.
Was there any small moment of celebration last night or yesterday afternoon, something like that, something to mark the occasion?
Well, my dad came down for the ceremony, so it was really nice to have Dad there, and it was a cool thing for us. But beyond that, he was just straight into work until about 10:30 last night.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, pseudoephedrine. That probably could have helped with your work last night if you're going late into the evening. But we've just spoken to a pharmacist who has told us that she's worried about the addiction issues with this medication if it's over the counter. She doesn't want us to go back to the old days where pharmacies were being held up or robbed for the medication. Are you going to put safeguards in place here? How will you ensure that these issues are mitigated?
Well, first of all, let's just not forget about the benefit. The cough and cold medicine that's been available has been shown to be vastly less effective than pseudoephedrine-based medications. So that's a big victory for people going into the next flu season, and we shouldn't forget the benefits. But there are always, with any policy, things that you have to watch. So to the extent that it's a concern about people getting addicted, that's something that you've always got a professional duty to watch. In terms of robbery, I mean, that did happen last time. I suspect it's much less likely this time because today, as we've seen, unfortunately, there's more P than ever. The people who make and sell this stuff have found faster, cheaper, bigger and better, I guess, ways to get it than taking a few pills out of a pharmacy and melting them down to make P. So I don't think that's going to be the same issue that it was. But I also think it's really important that we don't get stuck in this loop of people can't do something legal because we're worried about illegal activity. I remember, I think it was Stuart Nash, one of the former Labour ministers, who said, well, the answer for ram raids and robberies is for dairies not to sell cigarettes. Now, whatever you may think of cigarettes, I think it's a sad day when we say that you're not allowed to run a legal business according to the law because other people don't follow the law. The answer there is to enforce the law. And I also just add that pharmacists that are worried about that, this is not forcing anyone to stock it. It's simply removing the obligation, removing the restriction for people that want to.
Okay.
I also heard you say that people haven't asked for it for 10 years, but on the other hand, it'd be pretty amazing if people...
I want to ask you about this because this is a pharmacist who is public-facing every single day. She says she has never, since it was taken away, had anyone come in and say, hey, what happened to the pseudoephedrine? Who has anyone, business or otherwise, specifically lobbied you for this law change?
In terms of formal lobbying, like someone with a lobbying company coming in and saying we want a meeting and here's all the reasons you should do it, there's been no lobbying like that. What there has been is person after person who has said, look, actually, you know what, we've got a terrible cold or flu through this season, and we just want to go back to the days when we could get the good stuff. So it's come from widespread public demand.
No one from a pharmaceutical company or from a business lobby group has ever mentioned pseudoephedrine to you?
No, nothing like that. The closest I can think of is I think Eric Crampton at the New Zealand Initiative has written some articles about why the policy doesn't make sense from a policy or a regulatory point of view. But in terms of personally lobbying, he's just an economist who makes the economic case, which I happen to agree with, but nobody owns economics.
This ban, the smoking ban reversal for future generations, people are saying this is going to cost thousands of lives. Do you accept that? And is it worth it?
Well, first of all, I don't buy the logic that if the government doesn't do something and people make choices, the government is responsible for those choices. Actually, the government allows us to do a huge number of things that are dangerous. The government, for example, hasn't banned driving cars, and the government maintains many unsafe roads that this government is going to be fixing up. But if we were to say that the government's failure to ban us from doing things amounts to the government letting us die, that takes away the whole idea that we can make our own choices. And also just make the point that the practicality is that this is not a switch the government can switch on or off. When the government makes a policy, it has some consequences you expect, and it has other consequences you don't expect. So, for example, the previous government had planned to say there will be only 600 stores nationwide where you can buy tobacco. Now, that actually would have led to security concerns for those stores, because the government has decided that all the tobacco in a large area is in one place. That's an unhelpful rule.
Probably not a good idea.
That what would have...
In summary, David,
I suspect that...
Your message to anyone who is jumping up and down at the moment about the thousands of people who may have never picked up a cigarette in their lives, who, because this law change won't go ahead, may be able to pick up a cigarette and become addicted for the rest of their life and die prematurely, is that's on you, not the state.
It's not just that, it's many choices that you make in your life. And I also just make one other point about the unintended consequences. The previous government wanted to make tobacco probably a little bit more like cannabis, where a lot more of it would be sourced on the black market. Now, we had a referendum on cannabis, that's parked, but I don't think that creating another prohibition-style industry where the gangs make a lot of money and people still get the product anyway would have been good.
All right. OK, fair enough. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it. The ACT leader and Minister of Regulation, David Seymour, just gone 27 minutes after 7 o'clock.